record.
So, Mo, I'm going to start off by telling you that Mo wound me up hugely about 45 minutes ago. I called him at 6:20 and said, "Hey, getting on? You're nearly here." And he said, "Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow." To which I said, "You are taking the, something." So anyway, he's a bit like that. He then tried to hide my notebook after, which was so very nice about him. But no, all jokes aside, so just to let you know, Mo and I have known each other for a few years now. Our kids are actually in the same school, and got to know him, as a friend and as a person. And I got to say, this is going to be a great evening to learn about. Mo has had an amazing life, and I can't wait to go through this in detail. But just to give you some headline figures. So Mo, we also share the same birthday, 23rd of March, which we only found out the other day. Mo's 41. He has 10 gold medals, 4 Olympic medals, 6 world championships, and he is the most successful distance track runner in the history of the sport. But it wasn't all. Look how nervous he is. It wasn't always good news, was it, Mo? I mean, look, let's dial in and really think about those early days and how it all began. So over to you. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. Now, good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here tonight talking to you. And really, the aim is really just be open about it and talk about my journey. I'll start off early on in my, it was when I was a child. I was came to the UK at the age of 9. I was child trafficked into the UK. So for me, it was hard times. But honestly, I said as a 9-year-old, no 9-year-old want to go through that. But we will go back and touch notes on that journey. But I did struggle as a kid, and I think if it wasn't for my PE teacher and the school who spotted me as that child who was neglected, and I had the courage to be able to talk to the school about it, then I would never actually, come forward. But I had a quite long journey. But again, as I said, we all have a journey, whatever that journey is, and I'm sure we can go into a bit more details. But that is my journey, and as I said, early on, I was given a name. My parent named me Usain. That was my original name, and that was not the name that I go by now, as we all know as Mo Farah. But that was just my story, and I think a lot of it comes together when we go in a bit more detail.
Yeah. I mean, so going back to that age, though, I mean, 9 years old, how much do you remember about actually what was happening?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, it was hard because as a 9-year-old, and I'm sure some of you are parents and see your kids, you just want to see that kids to be happy and to play with their friends and have fun. But at the time, the civil war kicked in between the north and the south of Somalia, and at that point, I think, as I said, I lost my dad early on at the age of 4. And my mum had 8 kids. There was 8 of us, including myself. Mum was struggling a lot. She couldn't cope with death of my father. So at the time, it was like, I think I moved with relative family of mine, and at that point was just looking for a better solution, really, so we could just be kids and be happy. And at that point, I didn't know much about what was happening. I just knew, I had a relative who was living in Holland. And at the time, I thought Holland and England were one country, so I was coming in. So a couple of weeks beforehand, I met this lady who said to me, and I think at that point she was just trying to work me out and bringing me to UK. But at that point, I was just thinking, you know what, I'm going to go and see a relative, and just being excited. I didn't think anything other than what I face, and it was quite challenging.
And then when you got to the UK, what were you doing for the next couple of years, 9, 10, 11? What was that sort of next first few years in the UK like for you?
Yeah, it was very difficult. I came to the UK, so when I came to UK, I didn't go to school straight away. I struggled. I was doing chores in the house and really looking after other kids and quite very neglect. And at that point, I think I managed to go to school, but then the school did spot me how neglected I was. I was that kid unhappy who, was just going through a lot of emotional stuff. And at that point, and that's when I had the courage to talk to my PE teacher and the school and the social services to help me. And then from that environment, I was moved out to a different environment.
Yeah. And then, so no running before 9, 10.
Just trying to play. Yeah.
So where did let's talk about the physical side of things, so not necessarily running, but sports in general. Again, 9, 10, 11, you're at this school, you've made a good connection with, you said, the PE teacher.
Yeah.
What was next for that? How did that transpire into starting to get where you became?
Yeah, so early on in the school, I was spotted by my PE teacher who saw my talent. It was that kid who was just running around and running everywhere. And at that point, he said to me, "You should join the running club." And I was like, because for me, I didn't like running. I didn't want to run. I wanted to play football, honestly. And I saw myself as one of the best players, but I wasn't that best. I just loved playing football because all I saw on TV was football, and I wanted to play football. And at that point, when he spotted me, he said to me, "You should join the running club." I was like, "No," making up a lot of excuses. And then he said to me, "You know what? If you come down early, come to the gym, meet me at the gym, have a half an hour kickabout in the gym, and then I will take you to the running club." And at that point, I went half an hour early, played football with my friends, and then he took me to a local club. And then from the local club, I started to enjoy a bit more. I started to make friends, and then that's when I discovered running and how I could interact with other kids and really just be a kid.
And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people here like to run as part of exercise or even competed in the past, but did running also give you a feeling of endorphins, safe space? I mean, tell us a bit about that emotional piece around it.
Yeah, honestly, as I said, running for me was a way of being free. And as I said, we will go into a lot more details of, winning medals and stuff. But I believe that, if it wasn't for running and a way of being free, I would never gone that far. And in a way, when I was at the running club, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the commitment and also just enjoyed being happy. And in a way, I said running was a way out of life because that's the only way that I could control. I could not control what happened early on in my life. So in a way, it was a way of me being free and just enjoying myself.
And that was when you decided you weren't going to be Arsenal's next right winger, right?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, James, we could talk about football all day long because we love football.
I mean, just to be clear, I'm a big Tottenham fan, and Arsenal fan, so I'm not getting the win.
See, I'm going. As I said, we love football, and for me, it's what I saw on TV. And as a kid who's a young boy, 12, 13 years old, it's important to have a role models and people that they look up to. And for me, it's just said I love football and I love football players. And I was like, wow, I was amazed by players. And at that point, I just wanted to become a football player. I didn't understand the skills, the ability to do stuff. And then early on, realizing, you know what? I ain't that good at football, but I should stick to running. And then that's when I decided to stick to running and commit. And I think early on in my career, where I was taken, they took us to Disneyland, Florida trip, part of the European Youth Olympics, the kids that had potential, that had the talent. And at that point, I think that's when I realized, like, you know what? If this is the rewards, if this is things, I want to become a runner, and my mind just changed.
That's fair enough. And then, so at this time, then, when you were at the school, you weren't a British citizen, were you?
No.
And then along came Eddie Kulakundis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your relationship with Eddie and what happened with him.
Yeah. So early on, as I said, like I came to the UK and it was hard for me. And then I said I didn't have a citizen, I didn't have a British passport. And at that point, I think I stayed for many years. And I think you're entitled to apply for the British passport, which we did. But as you know, the lawyer's fees is very expensive, and at that point, I think I couldn't afford it. And there was a guy called Eddie Kuntakantis who loved athletics, who was quite a wealthy man, and he just loved athletes and supporting athletes that had the potential to become someone. And I'll never forget, he did support me, and I think he did pay towards my lawyers, and I managed to get my citizen, got my passport at that point, and I was like, wow. And honestly, as I said,
and it's fair to say you love Britain, don't you? You're quite patriotic about the country. I mean, when did that come as you just felt the vibe and energy of Britain as you became successful in the country around you, or was it from an early age?
No, as I said, it's all of us, as I said, and I think early on, obviously, I didn't understand the culture, I didn't understand the language. it was all new to me. But over time, as you go to school, you learn about the country itself, and you start to understand more. And again, honestly, as I said, if I didn't have that opportunity in life, then I wouldn't have achieved all these great things. So again, it's being able to understand, this is my country, this is what I love. As I said, every time I go out there, I want to make my country proud, because I felt like, my country has given me so much in terms of you being able to go to school, to go, run for your country, be part of the team that exists.
And so let's get back to the running. You liked running. You weren't sure if you were that good at it yet. Before we get into all the good things you did, what was it that, when was the first time you realised you actually were quite good and you were better than some of the others at school? I mean, give us some ages and times where you're like seeing people in your wing mirrors, like, let's just learn.
No, honestly, I was very talented, and over time, as you understand.
So how old were you then, just to be specific? When did you really realise?
I was probably about 15.
Quite late though, isn't it? If you look at other runners, I mean, so that's, yeah.
But I was, as I said, 13, 14, I was that kid who was just like loping along, and just that kid who's just full of energy and didn't understand of how you race. And I think age of 15 is when you realize, you know what, I'm good at this, but how can I make this work? And that's when I won the English schools, and a lot of people did talk about, you know what, this kid is really good, and more you're here, the more you kind of believe in yourself and go, I can do it.
So what year was that when you were English schools? Was this just cross country? Was it mainly? Was it athletics as well?
I started off as a cross country runner, and then in the winter we'll do the cross country, and then during in the summer I'll do track. I was doing like 1500 meters, and as you get older you start to go up and up. But I started off as a 1500-meter runner. But I was probably overall, as I said, if you compare me when I was that age, I was probably better cross country runner.
Yeah, and then. So 2005, rolling the clock forward a bit, you were 22, correct?
Yeah.
And that sort of period of 205 to 208, so 22 to 25, that's when you started to really get serious. You started breaking personal bests. You started to really announce yourself, at least domestically, right, in terms of competitions.
Yeah, so at that point, as I said, you come out from the rankings from under 20, under 23, and I won medals there. But it was really my senior it started off in 2005, and if we go back a little bit before that, where I was, I had the talent, I had that. Where people, this kid's got talent, but can he do it? And even now, I got picked to go to I think the training camp for the Athens Olympics pre-camp I remember in Greece. So I was thereabout, but things didn't quite kick on, we should say.
And this brings us to the next point. So before I go to 211, am I missing anything from 2009-10? Any interesting stuff, or should we?
We go 10 as we like. Yeah.
Go on, tell us what happened those 2 years, because that is quite a transitionary moment, right? The 2011 we'll get to in a moment. That was the decision, right?
Yeah.
But what were you doing in that 2009, 2010 as you were thinking, okay, how do I, get to that next level?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's almost like, you got to realize what you need to do. And as an athlete, I was thereabout. I came 7th at the World Championship. I came 9th at the World Championship. And obviously, that was early on in 2007. And then 2008, I think we ended up going to the Beijing Olympics. And at that point, I didn't even make the final. And it was quite I was disappointed in myself, and I was disappointed that, I didn't do what I wanted to do. And it was hard. It was hard, but then you got to learn from that and go, okay, what can I do? And I think there was a point of my career where at that point, I wasn't sure I was going to continue, because you start to doubt yourself. You start to go, listen, am I good enough? And a lot of stuff goes through your mind. And at that point, I think if I didn't have the team and the people behind me, then I wouldn't have gone on.
Let's sort of bring that back to the world of business here as well, because you talk about it's Mo, it's your running, you're the one on the track, you're the ones that legs are moving. But talk to me a bit about, at that moment, the team behind you, both family, Mike, your agent, you've been with for years. Like, how much of a part did that play in that resilience that you had to find to keep going?
Yeah, I think it's really important for all of us. So, as I said, first thing, you have to be honest with yourself. And once you be honest yourself, then you can have a team, you can have a people that can, not to tell you just when you're doing great things, but tell you things when things are going wrong. And again, if I didn't have that right team and have my family who was behind me, who got a bit more will go a bit more details about it, and have the agent and the coaches that can support you, it would have been very difficult. And I remember, going to Beijing Olympics and going, "Hey guys, check me out! I'm going to be on TV. Got you all your kit. You're excited, and you're like." I'm going to be on BBC One, tune in. And you're telling everyone, and everyone tunes in, and you go like, what? And then you get questions like, what happened? I was like, yeah, what happened? I didn't do good. And I remember like going, you know what? I told so many people I wanted to get to the final. I didn't quite do it. And I was devastated. But at that point, is what you do about it. It's fine. Things go wrong, and you got to put your hand up and go, you know what? I got that wrong tactically. Maybe I didn't have the right race. Maybe I didn't prepare myself in the right way. Maybe I could have done a bit more. And at that point, I was like, devastated. But I think it's important, as I said, have that team and have that people that then can support you when you need that support, can encourage you, can tell you, you know what, it's okay. You can go again. You got another one. You got the world champs, and keep you going.
Did you want to give up?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, I came back because I was at uni at St Mary's at the time, and I came back and go, you know what?
You met someone there as well, didn't you? Someone
My
quite
wife.
important to, yeah.
4 kids now, gone.
Well, 4 kids as well. Next question. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, but then that moment, especially, you had the one daughter then, right?
Yeah, Rihanna,
Before the
oldest
twins,
one.
yeah. So, but then 2011, that was the decision, wasn't it? I mean, talk to us a bit about what you did and what that year was all about for you.
I said 2011 was a big year for me because I won the Europeans in 2010, and as an athlete, if you compare yourself, there's different stages. So you got Europeans, obviously you got UK. Then when you're best in the UK, then you go European, and then once you got Europeans, the world, and then after the world's the Olympics. So that's the ranks. And at that point, we had 2011, the world champs, and I was the favourite to win the gold. But tactically got it wrong in the 10,000 meters. I went early on and pushed. And as I said, as an athlete, like when you're at that level, it's all about the details that goes into it. So you got to be able to understand your opposition better than they can understand themselves. And then you have to know where the weakness, strength, and work out a way that you can win and put yourself in the best position that you can. So that's the easiest way it's done. But at that point, I said, I knew everyone what they're capable of. And there was one guy that I've never heard of him and didn't see him race all year. His name was Jaylan. And I went to the front and probably about 500 meters, went so hard, dropped the other guys, had a good gap, and thinking, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then Jaylan just came from middle of nowhere. He just kind of kept behind me, came around the outside 200 meters to go. And at that point, I saw him on my shoulder and I'm like, you shouldn't be here. And then started to panic because you shouldn't really. And at that point, it's like, oh, and then it got to the home straight and I just had nothing left because I used all my energy. But that was a good learning code. And I guess that probably the best thing could ever happen to me because it taught me lesson.
And then where did you move?
So I'm going forward, ain't I? But
so stay with the program. Come on.
Yeah, so I get so excited. So in 2011, I moved to the US, as I said, and it was a big decision. But as an athlete, I finished 7th at the world champ, 9th at the world champs. I knew in myself like things wasn't working out. I just needed to change, and I just felt like there's coaches out there. There's the better facilities out there in the world that could work better for me. And at that point, I just got married, and I could easily be satisfied with having a nice house with my daughter there. But in myself, I was like, you know what? If I want to be the best, I've got to be willing to try that. I don't want to regret the rest of my life and going, you know what? I wish I could have done that. And that was that point where you go, you know what? I was afraid, but at that point, I didn't want to look back in my career going, I wish I could have made that. And it wasn't guaranteed that was going to work, but it's something that I wanted to give myself and try it. And again, I think it worked out really well, but it's being able to use that and in the best way that you can.
You think it worked out well? I mean, something happened the next year, but we'll get there in a moment. But so the big moment where you were announced Mo Farah on the world stage was South Korea, right?
Yeah.
It was the world champs where you got silver
and in the gold in the 5,000.
Gold in the 5K, yeah? Okay. Did you expect it to be the other way around, you said?
Yeah, I expected to win 2 gold medals. Honestly, that's why I was going into it. I wanted to win that 2 gold medals, because a few months before that, I did a 10K in Eugene Prefontaine. It's quite a famous run if you live in West Coast. And at that point, I beat everybody in the field. I run 26:46, and it's still my personal best till now. And at that point, going into it, I was like, you know what? I'm good. I can beat all this guy. I can run this time. So I was going into with a bit more confidence. And
That's really embarrassing. Your 10K time is exactly half of mine. So I'm about 50.
you
Just work that one out. I actually
you,
said that.
you,
Okay, moving on. So, what was it about being in Oregon and that setup, the coaches you had, the people you were training with, the atmosphere, the culture? Because this is really interesting. Again, talking about companies, a lot of people here, obviously, in the workplace. I mean, was there just something different about how you showed up and how it felt being there versus what you were doing before?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, we had a good setup. We're in Portland, Oregon, and they had amazing facilities. The coach, my training partners, and we had everything we needed there in terms of you to be to have the facility in terms of like the Nike headquarters where we were. You could do like 2 mile loop. They had the Ronaldo field. They had the shoes where you could do all the testing, find out how they can help you. There was a lot of stuff, and in that, as I said, when I took my family there, I was like, you know what, I want to give myself a better chance. And I know I need to change something. And at that point, as I said, there was a lot to learn because, as I said, it's a new culture. Obviously, same language. It wasn't like when I came early on it to England.
It's not Dutch, no.
It's not
Yeah.
Dutch, no. But it was good because I said I was open-minded, and I think in order for you to be someone, you have to be open-minded. You have to be able to understand, things that people do think differently.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are, 2012. It was a big year for you. Let's just talk a little bit about, you knew London was coming, the Olympics. Clearly, you knew you were in the races.
Yeah.
Did your training plan or the way you thought about preparing for this change, or was it's just another race?
It almost like at times you did get excited because it's like, oh my God, we're going to have the Olympics. But you almost have to go back to reality and go, you know what, it's just another race, and tell yourself like it's just another race. As an athlete, I think, as I said, I prepared the best that I could. I did everything that I could do in training. So in terms of, when you're on the track, before the World Championship, you would do like 6 or 7 races. And the reason why you do 6 or 7 races is be able to find out where you are with your training. If you're missing on a little bit on speed, endurance, tactically, and you just want to be able to race against other athletes. And leading up to it, I had 6 or 7 races where I was confident with my training, and I was confident being able to win a gold, not gold medal, but win a medal.
So you went, the 10K was first, right?
Yeah.
So you went into that race and you can tell the truth. Was it, I think I was going to win a medal or I'm going to win gold? Like, what was your, I know you manifest to say you win gold, you tell me that, but did you genuinely believe this was it?
No, you as an athlete, you have to go in that belief and that confidence that you will give it 110%, and you can try and go for gold medal. If I said to you, each race I went into, I wasn't going for a gold medal, I'll be lying, because as an athlete, you can't doubt yourself. You got to go in there and say, you know what, I'm going to give it 110%. I'm going to go for the gold, but then tactically try and come out a way that you can win. And at that point, as I said, training has gone well. We were in south of France in training camp up in the mountains. So probably about a week before, someone said to me, you know what, Mo, if you win this on Saturday, your life is going to change. I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't listen. I was like, yeah, yeah. But that's, you couldn't get excited. You got to just go, you know what, the race is not done yet. Let me do the race, see what happens. And you almost like kept pushing it down, if that makes sense. And then just come to London 2 days before the race. Went down the stadium, did like a little warming up, did a couple of strides the night before, and I had that feeling where I was like, you know what, because there were so many people out there, I was just like, oh my days, this is bigger than what I thought it was going to be.
And then another thing I wanted to quickly sort of explore is, your training, you back yourself, you know what you're capable of. how much is the noise around you of who's going to be in the race? Like, because you know their results,
Yeah,
you know what their PBs
yeah.
are. How much does that play a part in terms of your preparation versus what they're bringing?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, everyone prepared different. As I said, often I went into always in a championship, not the fastest athlete, but I've always gone out there to, won medals, if that makes sense. So if end of the year, if you look at all the results and stuff, you will probably see 6 or 7 athletes ahead of me in terms of times. So for me, it was about being able to understand, like, you know what, I don't want to run fast time, I want to win medals. And always my mindset was like, I want to win medals for my country. I want to win medals. That was my mind, in a way.
And then let's go 10 minutes before the gun for the 10K. What's going through your head? What's that prep?
Yeah, just nervous. So I will break it down a little bit. So the night before you try and sleep, can't sleep. If anyone tells you that they slept well, never, because you just try and picture yourself and what you need to do, and then almost you fall asleep and you wake up and you're just thinking about it. But at that point, it's like I've always told myself there's nothing you could do. You've done everything you need to do. And then I'll just look back and go, I'm going to look at my watch. I'm going to look back at my diary and tell myself I've done this session, this session. If it comes speed, I've done that speed. If it comes to endurance, I did the endurance. And that what gave me belief for me. And then, as I said, and then it's all about controlling your nerves. And I remember going to the stadium an hour beforehand and just going on my days a warm-up track. It was like, because the track is there, and then outside you had the warm-up track where it's quite open, and not a lot of supporters were looking up and Union Jack, and I'm going, wow. And then when you turn up in the race, it's almost like just try and use that energy, use the crowd, and I believe the crowd gave me a massive lift. If it wasn't for the crowd and that support, I don't think I would have won that gold. It was almost like, what, whenever I went to the front, I was almost testing them and going, and they would hear massive cheer. But it was kind of using that.
And then, I mean, what you should have said is I was thinking of my heavily pregnant, 8 months pregnant wife with twins, but you went on to the running instead. But all jokes aside, I don't know if you know this. So the 5K, when did you run that? What day?
So it was the 10K first.
No, but what date? Because the 5K was closer to the birth. So what date was the 5K? 15th of August, something like that?
15th, 14th maybe.
And then when were the twins born?
24th of August. Lucky kids, right?
So how did you deal with that again with your team and management in the back of your mind, knowing you've got a wife that's heavily pregnant with... Did you know you're having twins?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then you had a few races that were quite important to run as well. How did you deal with that, honestly?
Honestly, as I said, my wife has said she's the most amazing person because she understands. She lets me do what I needed to do for years to be able to go training camp, to compete and be away from the kids. And at that point, she was heavily pregnant, and I knew the twins were coming. But it's I didn't even know this till later on. But they had a chat with my agent, and I've been with him for many years, and they already came up with a plan. If the kids did come, they weren't going to let me know, because if they did let me know, they ain't going to do anything, but it might distract me from the race. So in a way, they came up with, like, if the kids do come, we'll just deal with it. And it's so important, as I said, to have a people that you can rely on.
So the kids didn't come?
They didn't come. They came a little bit later.
But then when you won the 10K,
yeah.
Come on, do it for us. What's this move you do for us?
What move?
Come on.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the Mobot. I think most people haven't heard of it, right?
Oh, tell us about it. Yeah, go on.
So I was on this TV show. It was early on, like late 2010. Everyone, Usain Bolt, that celebration, and I was on a TV show, and they said to me, Mo, we're going to have the London 2012 coming up soon. We need to come up with a celebration for you. I was like, yeah, okay. And then James Corden, Claire Bording, and Jack Whitehall said, Claire Bording goes, why don't you do the song YMCA? Have you heard of it? Have you heard of YMCA? Yeah. And then James Corden named the Mobot, and I promised I'll do it. And really, it's the M and O. So I did that in 2010. People were like, what is he doing? What's that? And then I did it in 2012. I was like, yeah. So, yeah.
But you did that as you came across the line, right? In the 10K. And then you saw Tanya, your wife. I mean, how that must have felt.
No, honestly, as I said, I was so proud to see my family because often, it's not just my journey, it's their journey too, because, I'm a part of their lifespan. Often you are away to do what you needed to do the best. And again, just having them on the track meant so much to me, because I value their time, and family time is important to me. And seeing them on the track was incredible. My wife hardly can walk, and Rihanna's just like little excited again. I can't believe she's coming up to almost 20. Actually, that's how old I am.
And one thing you said to me last week when we were talking is that actually when you're running, I was like, what are you looking at? And you literally would pick out individual people and flags, wouldn't you, just to focus on? And just tell us a bit about what you're looking at when you're going round and how that all felt.
Yeah, so when you're running, depends on how much you're hurting, but at the same time, it's like so when you're on training run, I'm sure a lot of you do run, and there's a lot of stuff going through your mind, and going what you need to do, a lot of stuff. But when you're racing, it's almost like thinking, you know what, I'm going to win the race, but you do get distracted, and you may be looking across, someone just cheering a bit more loud, or you need jack. And I remember, the race didn't quite kick as hard as I perhaps thought it would. So I had a little bit more energy where, you can engage a bit more, and not wait.
Did you say this is easy? Did you just?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I'm sure you've seen 10,000 meters, or if you ever watch some of my races, you see it they don't sprint till about 5 or 6 laps to go. So for me, often, you'll see me at the back. And the reason why you saw me at the back, because I'm like, you know what, I don't want to waste energy. I want to just kind of run my own pace, sit at the back, and then 5 or 6 laps to go, try and come to the front. And then when it comes to the last lap, run on the inside, tight as possible, because you don't want to run that longer by being in line 2 or 3. So you hold on to the curb, hold on tight, and don't let anybody pass you. That was always my tactics.
So it went well. You won. You won the 5K. So that's 2 goals. All of a sudden, you've gone from someone that is a little bit well known to literally sensation.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about it a bit later around that sensation and how you balance that piece. But like, how weird must that have been for you waking up and just the reception in the street and people recognizing the accolades, and just tell us a bit about that feeling.
Honestly, as I said, yeah, sometimes, now I'm retired and you can look back, but as I said, so many people in my career supported me, cheered me on, and see me as a young little boy who hardly can speak English, gone through hard times as early on as I did in my life, to achieve these amazing things. It's incredible. And as I said, like, I just, I was very lucky man, perhaps.
No, and then the next year you got this Commander of the Order of the British Empire, didn't you? CBA, and you said to me you were just annoyed you didn't get a knighthood. But tell us, but then you got that a bit later on, right?
Yeah.
2017, but so 2013 and then 14, this 212 to 216 period was it, wasn't it? This is when you were literally at the pinnacle. So 214, double gold again, Zurich in the World Championships. But that year was also the first year that you decided to run the London Marathon, right?
Yeah, it was. Honestly, as I said, to be knighted, and to be knighted by Her Majesty the Queen, it was incredible, because as a boy who came to the UK with nothing to achieve these amazing things, and then given that title because of what I achieved and won medals for my country, it's incredible, because there's things that we cannot control, and often, as I said, I just enjoyed what I did, and I try and commit and just graft. That's what I did, honestly, hard work. And there's things that comes with it, like wow. And sometimes I do just take it. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that.
And also, Mo, I won't say this to you ever again, but don't you ever underestimate what you did for the country as well. I mean, I remember even me and my family.
Yeah.
I mean, round of applause. I remember being in front of the TV with my family and just the endorphins, the adrenaline, going, come on, Mo, come on, like this. And everyone we knew, but it just lit everyone up. It was just amazing. So I feel emotional. You should be proud of that. And
Yeah.
honestly, it was just amazing. And then from there, you just rode that and you didn't lose that professionalism. So double gold Zurich. Sorry, we're going back to bad news now. Ready? So 2016.
Yeah.
There was another Olympics, right? In Rio. And let's just jump up and watch this. Come over here with me. So watching that back, I know you've seen it a million times. I'll show you one more. I mean, what lap was that you fell over?
Probably it was a 6-7.
And that's just kind of, I mean, rhythm in running's everything, mindset. I mean, you went down. It was actually your training partner, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. From USA.
How did you feel?
No, honestly, as I said, it was incredible because as an athlete, you know, often it's the work goes into it, and at that moment, you know, there's things that you cannot control, and at that moment, I could not control anything other than my running. So at that point, when I went down, I was just like, you know what, I worked too hard for this. I cannot give up. I have to get back up. And also, you know, early on, I had the twin girls were born in 2012, and I gave my medals to them, engraved their names on it. So my oldest daughter was asking me, she's like, "Dad, are you going to get me a medal?" And I remember going, God. And I was like, I can't let her down. And
Did that generally go in your head as you
it
felt?
did, honestly.
Amazing.
Yeah. As I went down, I was like, oh no. And then one of you, like as you go into it, sometimes our mind just goes, you know what? Okay, you fell over, drop out. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I worked too hard, and just managed to, you know, find that extra gear and just be patient, and kind of each lap then go on. Each lap as we get closer to the finish, it was more like, you know what, it's another lap, it's another lap. Be patient and just close the field down slowly rather than panicking and going, you know what, go hard. And as I said, like, you know, because I knew I did everything right, and I was in such a great shape, and I was just like, you know what, you are in great shape. You just come on, you can get through it. And I just told myself I had to get back up.
It's not getting up; it's winning. I mean,
First, you had to get back up.
So did it really mess up in terms of you pace yourself on the laps? Did you think I have to catch up an extra second a lap, or did you just play it with what you saw in front of you at that time?
Honestly, but probably one of the best thing is like it didn't happen later on, because if it happened like 5 laps or 6 laps or 10 laps to go, I think the race would have been done. But it happened early on, so it gave me time to just get through it, and I just had to be patient and not get too excited or, you know, too anxious about it. Just had to just be patient and go, you know, close the gap, and then once I closed the gap, that was it. And then I knew then each lap as we get closer to the final lap, the more chance I had. So each lap as it go, 6 laps to go, I was like, yeah, okay, getting closer, 5, 4, and then it was more like, you know, just that mindset of, well, you know what, if I can get to the last lap when I hear the bell, I know nobody else is going to beat me. So that was my mindset.
Awesome. I mean, and then so that was 2017 is when you decided that you announced you're going to stop track. Yeah.
That was hard. Shouldn't have done that, maybe.
And was that you making that decision?
As I said, you have to be honest with yourself. And I think for all of us, whatever we do, if we can't be honest with ourselves, how do we move forward and go on? And for me, it was, you know, as an athlete who's won so many medals, and at that point, there wasn't that quite drive. I had that before, where, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you got that, yeah, I'm ready to go. And it was just almost, you know, it was harder to motivate myself at times. So I was like, you know what, I've done everything I need to do. Maybe it's just, you know, I've got to try something new. And at that point, I was like, you know what, let me try the marathon. And as I said, it was a learning code for the marathon.
And then you won the marathon in Chicago. Yeah. In 2000.
Not straight away. So I was sad.
It did take a bit longer, didn't it?
It took me longer, and said is you have to understand the event, and you got to understand how you train and what works for you, because I think each athlete is different. And for me, I just thought, you know what, was so good on the track, I'm going to be amazing at the marathon. But that was just my mindset. We're going, you know what, I'll be good at it. And then I did struggle, honestly. I say openly, but I did struggle. I run 2:05, won Chicago Marathon. but perhaps didn't have that longer
So,
career.
well, the whispers in that 205. But
But we're talking about as an athlete, when you're elite athlete, we're
yeah,
talking about small margin. That small margin, and that, as I said, like before, when I moved to the US and 2011 made them changes, I was finishing the world championship half a second behind, point something. So that point something, that's min coming like second or fourth or fifth. So it's that margin.
so look, amazing career in running, right?
Mhm.
And we could talk all day about this, but to me, having spent time with you and really understanding your passion for other areas as well, I think it would be a miss not to cover this. So 218 Chicago, I know you carried on running, but then there was this big moment 2022 where you decided to release the real Mo Farah, the documentary.
Yeah.
Tell us about the decision to do that and what that decision actually was. 'Cause a lot of people here probably don't know
Mhm.
what you just disclosed in that.
Sure.
And why then? Why that time?
Yeah, it's a good question. As I said, like often, as an athlete, I felt like, I had an amazing career, and the only things that I could control was my running. I could not control anything else. And what really did it for me was my family, just seeing my kids at that age and going, you know what, they're a year older than me. They're that age where I went through all my stuff. And sometimes I would see myself daydreaming and going, because I was just thinking about my upbringing and the way I struggled. And at that point, it was hard for me to engage. A lot of times I'll be like just in that zone. And it was so hard. But again, if it wasn't for my wife and my kids who supported me, then I would never talked about it. Because, for 30 years, you put it on the back of your mind and you try to not think about it. But it's only normal by talking about it, because if you don't talk about it, it's only going to. And it was weighing me down, because, as I said, I just wanted to, to to be, yeah, to just let it out. And I said, if it wasn't for my kids, I think I would definitely struggle. Even making the commentary, I stopped 4 times, 3 or 4 times. I stopped and get going again. I'm like, it was hard. It wasn't an easy thing to do.
You went back to your home country of birth
Yeah.
and made connections. Just tell us a bit about what happened there.
Yeah, so really, I was just as a human. I just wanted to understand why it had to be me, and why did it happen that way? And it really is just trying to find out answers for myself so I can feel better and I understand how it happened, because a lot of it did not add up to me. Yeah, I was coming to UK and I was supposed to go somewhere else and it didn't happen. But then really go deeper and go ask my mom, ask my family to go, why it had to be me? Could it not be someone else? Well, and it wasn't easy, but again, it just gave me some answers that I wanted to hear. And honestly, the hardest conversation is probably my mom, and having that conversation, because often, as a respect for your mother and stuff, you don't want to even your mom things that she got wrong, or you don't want to talk about it, because you're just like, what, that was a long time ago. But I wanted to engage her and just talk to her and find answers. And I got lots of answers, but still a lot of stuff doesn't even make sense to me. But then again, if it wasn't for my story or how I struggled, then the other question we were having earlier, an open conversation, but I was like, maybe that's what brings me. Yeah, that was what made me that great athlete. That's what made me. Maybe that was the drive.
And just to be clear, so what you told us at the beginning about being trafficked in at 9, that was all under lock and key, right? Until that documentary came
yeah,
out
so
in 2022.
yeah, till the 2022, I just like, not many people knew. Only my wife knew, and the school, my PE teacher who spotted me, and the social services knew that I wasn't called Mo Farah. My name was Hussein. And at the time, not many people knew. And I just felt like, you know what? I've had so much support from the British public and everyone. It's such a shame to not be honest and just and let it out. And as well as for myself, I just wanted to be a little bit more freer. And which honestly, as I said, the support we've had, and the amount of people who's come forward and say thank you for what you've done, and people can now talk about it.
No, I mean, it's incredibly brave. I mean, round of applause. I mean, and then how did that how was that relationship with your kids after that?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, I'm honest with my kid. I try and be open as them, because I think it's so important for me. As I said, my biggest value is family. Because as a young boy, and I think a lot of questions were like, how come you always see your kids on the track? And I try and bring them on the track because I believe there's part of me, and I just want them to be, even though I'm away in training camp or working hard, or whatever I do is for them, for myself. And to me, family is everything. And as I said, it's probably made me a little bit more closer because I let it out, and it brings everyone together.
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of, I guess, the coverage that got, so you won a BAFTA, right?
Yeah, I did win a BAFTA. I can't believe that.
And Sports Personality of the Year and your medals.
Yeah, but as I said, you know what? When I was doing that documentary, it wasn't because I want to win a BAFTA. It was more of a, this is my story. This is who I am. And
But how many viewers was it when it got released?
it was quite a lot. It was a record. It was a record.
Roughly
I can't remember. I've been lying.
7.5, 8
Was it?
million, something like that on the BBC.
Mike would tell you maybe. Where's
Yeah,
Mike?
Mike will correct later.
Mike,
What was it,
correct
Mike?
us?
Okay, so about 7.5, 8 million people watched this when it premiered on the BBC. And I think, again, it's just a testimony to that openness and that humility that you've shown and how you.
As I said, that's what brings us, all of us, tonight. We all have that ability to be able to do something. We're all good at different things, and it's just, what? How do we share that? How do we drive that forward?
So then, what are you doing now? I mean, so one of the things that, I wanted to talk to you about it. How do you go from having such intensity day in, day out of training to just, doing what you do now? How does that work? What are you focusing your attention on? What are your passions now?
As I said, honestly, I said that I had an amazing career, and sometimes it's the most hardest things when all you know is running, and to go, you know what, I'll call it a day, or when you get an injury and you want to stop because it's almost like, that's your career, that's what you did. It's harder to stop. But as I said, I just want to now be able to spend more time with my kids, to give it back to the younger kids, younger generation, because they need that person that can support. And I believe, and I think anything is possible in life if you work hard and graft, and then showing the younger generation, they might have challenges, but they can overcome. But also, I think, as I said, try and figure out how we can give back to kids. It's so important.
So tell us some of the stuff you're doing. So I know you've actually been active. You did something at Lee Valley Stadium recently.
Yeah, so I set up the 1 More Mile event. It's the key really is to be telling kids and anyone that we all could do that one more. But what is that one more? It could be anything. It could be one step. It could be one run. It could be one job. But try and find that, go into younger kids. So I had under 9, under 13, and under 11, and really just create an opportunity for them. Because if they're not trying these events, how are they going to learn from them? If they're not making mistake, how are they going to know? And if they're not trying, then how would they know what they're good at? And again, I was lucky enough that I had a PE teacher who supported me, who took me to local club. But some of the kids don't have that opportunity. But really, it's my concept, my goal is to start here and to continue around the world, and create somewhere kids can just be kids and play and take part in many events, because we do have to invest in youth and kids.
Talk about some of the other stuff you've done over the years with, this philanthropy, charities. Just give us some other examples.
I'm ambassador for Save the Children, which I do quite a lot of work because family means everything to me, and kids. Ambassador for IOM Migration. And again, it's just, because of my story, I didn't realize how many people who's gone through, or in that system where child trafficking is huge, and it happens in many countries. It's even happening here in the UK. It's happening all over the world. But if we don't know what the signs are, then how are we going to react, or how do we understand it? And I think it's just show people, how need a chance and to be heard.
Perfect. And look, sorry to bring the tone, but Mo actually lost in the dad's race on Sports Day. Unfortunately, it wasn't at our school. It'd be great if I could say it was me, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was your daughter's school, yeah?
It was.
So tell us what happened there.
What happened there? I'm joking. Honestly, said it was fun. I didn't like losing. Honestly, I'm gonna say that. But it was my kids' race, and often I'm not so good at short distance. But it was in the race where the parents were taking part, and I said I will take part, and I had my spikes and all geared up and ready to go, and I end up coming. I think I came third in the race, and I got beat by a parents who's wearing a pair of jeans. And I had, yeah, a pair of jeans. I was like, oh, yeah.
Just wasn't warming up enough for you.
No, it wasn't warming up.
And then, look, we talked about this question the other day. So you're good mates with Usain Bolt, right?
Yeah.
He's quite famous as well.
Very famous. Very fast too.
So, but not as fast as you once you get past a certain amount of meters.
No, no,
And we're having this argument and
Yeah.
saying, like, come on, what is the distance? So who wins 100?
I think
Well, it's obvious.
easily.
It's not, I think.
I wasn't putting my hand up. I was just saying, yeah, him.
Yeah, okay. 200?
Him.
If there was 300.
Him.
400.
Him.
Oh, okay. 500.
I think I will have him. We will try and figure out when we are all in that perfect shape and in the prime of our career. We did consider having a race for a charity, and it never quite happened. But we were thinking, talking to my colleague Mike, who's my agent here tonight. We were talking about what would be perfect distance, and I believe anything over 5, I'll have him. Anything shorter, then it will take me.
Yeah.
What
Perfect.
do you reckon, guys? What do you reckon? Yeah?
Well, look, brilliant, Mo. Thanks so much for your time tonight. I think this has been really insightful for everyone, both,
I'm going to embarrass someone here. Where's Matt Roper? Where are you? You okay? It's my good friend there.
Oh, really? Who's coming? Okay.
He cooked us a nice meal the other day.
Very good.
Back.
Oh, thanks.
I just...
So what I was going to move to is Q&A for the audience. I mean, I'm sure you've got a few questions for Mo. So we've got about sort of 25 minutes now to ask questions. So
yeah, but as I said, yeah, feel free to ask any questions and other things.
Anything.
Sure. Yeah, retired now, right?
We'll start in the front here.
Well, hello. Thank you, Mo. It's such an honour and a privilege. Thank you for talking to us. Such a fascinating story. I'm sure there's a few amateur runners in the audience. I'm going to kick it off with a really nerdy question. What are your top 3 tips for the amateur half marathon runner?
Half marathon. Yeah. So my main one is make sure you look after your body, because if you don't look after your body, it's harder to recover. And as I said, being able to have like maybe ice bath, and just don't be afraid to have that extra day rest, because I think sometimes, as I said, you see all these people doing great things, but if you don't look after your body, then it takes a lot out of you. And as I say, just enjoy it, and always set yourself a goal, whatever that goal is. Don't overset it, but set yourself a goal. And when you have a goal, then it gives you something to drive towards. And I think sometimes the hardest thing is, as I said, we want to do it, but if we don't have a goal, it's hard to do it. Even me, you were asking me, James, you were like, "You're running much?" I was like, "No, I'm not doing much." Because as I said, like in life, I've always had goal, whatever that was. It was like under 15 boys, you wanted to run for England. Under 17, you wanted to run certain time. Under 20, and then senior, and then when you win medal, you were like, "I want to win next medal." I think without a goal, it's hard, and that's what I would say.
And also, just you reminded me of something. So I remember when we were at your house, you had the Swiss ball, didn't you? And you really
Medicine ball.
took that medicine ball, not Swiss ball.
Yeah,
You-
that's so
the
Swiss ball, you're right.
The stretching and core piece. Just talk a bit about that, because that's very relevant.
Yeah, but also said, for me, most people would probably think, "Oh, Mo just run." No, I didn't run. I didn't just run. I did everything else outside that as well. Like I was lifting 3 or 4 times a week. Proper lifting, as well as doing the core and all this stuff. So if you think about running, as I said, the best athletes are the ones who keep that form and not like rolling and going forwards and backwards. Because when you're doing all of that, it's that you're losing. So for example, if you're driving a car and you've got the steering, if you keep the steering straight, you can probably go a lot faster. But if you're going to just go side to side, you're wasting energy. And yeah, I didn't quite understand, but later on I understand like what you need to do. If you condition your body and do all this cool stuff, the more power, and then having that explode off the ground where you can just, because what you want to do, hit the ground but come off, but then instead hitting the ground and going, oh, hello, hello, it's almost that, if I can explain well.
Is that helpful?
Did that help?
Nailed
So
it.
a bit more gym as well, maybe you're cool, that will help. Sorry.
We'll go front row here as well.
Hi, Mo.
Hi.
Mo, there's a book called Bounce, written by an author called Matthew Syed.
Yeah.
The premise of the book is about the 10,000-hour theory of training.
Yeah.
So every chapter is about a different sporting great, like Tiger Woods, Williams sisters. Do you believe that, based on that book of 10,000-hour theory, do you believe anyone could be a long-distance runner if they put the time in and the practice?
I do believe that. I think a lot of it has to come from, as I said, like when you, as I said, like I just compare football to running. So as a football player, if you haven't picked up the ball for a certain age, it's harder for you to come back, like to be a decent football player, because you got to like teach your muscle memories. Same again, golf, you have to put in this amount and get that technique right. And then in terms of distance, if I say long distance, genetically, mainly, so the people who are born in East Africa have that like that lighter structure, and if they can do that by more training, they can reach. But then also, as I said, in terms of in America, we saw was in the Graham Fisher, Galen Rupp, who finished second to me the Olympics in 2012. It's almost like, say, you got to practice. Does that make sense? Genetically, we might have that, but as long as you pick up a sports early on, I believe the more hours, more training, more condition you get, you can.
I thought that was dispelled the myth that Caribbean sprinters, genetically, there's nothing predisposed that makes them any faster. The whole fast twitch fibre is. I heard it was a myth that had been dispelled.
Yeah, I think just what I know, the best of distance are normally East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and train with them. And also, obviously, some of the American guys are now mixing in with them. And in terms of times, if you look at the records, they do have the world records and it's there. But I believe all this stuff can be taught in training, and the more training you do, the more effort you can make, the more you teach your muscle memories, then the more chance you can have.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, this gent here, the red tie.
Okay.
Hi, Mo.
Hi.
I don't run, by the way. I thought you could either run fast or run slow, so I'm no runner. But you mentioned when you were in America, I'm pretty sure you mentioned that you were trying out different footwear. So just in terms of footwear, how important is that sort of technology around footwear in terms of that elite athlete and the performance? Is that the bit that makes the difference?
Yeah, no, I think all this stuff, as I said, we talk about footwear, we talk about, you being in great shape, you've been light and being able to be ready for the race. All this does have big part. As I said, for me, when I lined up for myself, as I explained, I make sure, I was, cover everything as well as having the best equipment, because when I felt like when I was lining up, I felt like, if I can have the lightest shoe, if I can have that, the more I can have that chance to win the race. But again, technology is moving forward. As you see it now, like when I was talking about Sir James, when I run 2014 marathon, I was in bits. Because again, it's like with the shoes and stuff now, I tend to have, you can recover quicker. And often, I don't know if any of you guys run marathons. Have you tried the new shoes and new equipment? Yeah? Yeah, and it does help you to recover quicker.
Perfect. Anyone else? So go to the back just to make it fair. Over on the left there, Hayley, at the back, middle, back.
Thanks, Mo. Such an inspirational story. Thank you so much for sharing. There were a lot of bits that you shared were really relevant in the business context as well. One thing that really stuck with me was where you said you need to know your competition better than they know themselves. So I wanted to understand how you analyze your competitors and how did you prepare against them?
Yeah, said often, and I think it took me years to understand that, because again, when I was first getting into uh, running with them, I had the chance to be able to live with them. So when I lived with them, I saw what they were doing. They would eat, sleep, train. So again, it's more questioning yourself, and you're like, you know what? If I want to be as good as these guys, I need to be doing the same thing as them. And then I moved to like train in Kenya, Ethiopia, and all the stuff I saw, that similar way of training. And then again, it's like in the race, you look at it, you study them, and you go, what is that race won in? What is the world champs won in? What is the last K running? What normally happens? How often does it happen? So you got to work that out, and then you got to work out the oppositions, who's the strongest, what they're good at, and the more you can understand about them, the easier the easier it is, and the more then you can come up with the tactics that you can beat them. And often for me, that was my homework. That's what I had to do in order for me, if I want to win a medal, get close to a medal. I had to understand every athlete and what they're capable of on a good day and a bad day, an okay day.
Sorry to hijack that question, but there's a bit more
Yeah.
detail. So would you actually look into their splits at certain times of the races?
Not in that race, but I will look back in their splits for the races they did. So if they competed in the 5,000 meters, I would say, okay, how long ago did they compete? What was this? What time did they run? Where did they finish in the race? Who were they racing against? And then that will give me more understanding. And then I will also look at the US trials often.
Any more questions? Yeah, back right there, Adrian. Next, no, up a bit. There we go.
Hi, Mo.
Hi.
A quick question is a little bit around career transitioning when you're at the pinnacle of what you do, right? And you mentioned earlier when you were in the teenage years, people recognized your talent.
Mhm.
And I suspect if you take 100% of that, a lot of it was natural ability. But then a lot of individuals have natural ability but don't make it to
Mhm.
the journey you've achieved. Is there anything over the years which you can really extrapolate, which might help you now in terms of skills that help you with, the new career which you've done after being the athlete you have been?
Yeah. So as I said, honestly, I've seen a lot. I've gone through different age groups, and then as I said, I've seen a lot of great athletes who didn't quite have the talent I did, but it was close enough, and who's gone the other way, who didn't continue new sport because they felt like it was hard for them. And I've seen athletes that could have gone more and achieved more. And at the same time, I think it's whatever you do, you have to commit. It's not always going to be a smooth ride, but you have to commit, and you have to be willing to make mistakes. And in order for you to learn, if you didn't make any mistakes and you won every race, it's hard to learn anything. But also you have to enjoy. And for me, as I said, my next thing, what I want to do is be able to help athletes, well, be a mentor for them, be a coach, be a role model. And then I believe, with what I've learned throughout the years, I can give back so much to youth and younger kids.
And is it fair to say, so do you think if you hadn't come 7th, 8th, 9th in those early years that you probably wouldn't have won what you did in 2012 to 16? So going back to your question around career, it's okay to fail. It's okay to not work out in a company, and then you can still do very well in a company in the future, like if we're bringing the worlds together.
Yeah, I think as I said, each athlete transition different. As I said, I've seen it with my own kids. There's certain kids. My son plays football. My girl has run, who are so talented. Who does like things like, as I said, find the ease, and then as they get older, develop, they start to change. But I think there's one thing that I've always had is the drive. And I think as long as you have that drive, you can reach. You can achieve to a great level.
Perfect. Yeah, just in the middle there. Adrian, just pick one. I can't actually see.
Well, what's on your Spotify playlist?
You don't want to hear it.
No, I do. I want to find it on here. And
but honestly, I like UB40. Yeah, isn't that's all kind of stuff. Honestly, because as an athlete, there is times that where I just need to get out the house and run, and sometimes you find hard to motivate yourself at times where when it's raining and stuff. So I do put on my headphones and run, and I put on shuffle, and I'm more of R&B hip hop, but I do like a good music. UB40, like often I'm embarrassing my kids turning up going,
Which song?
Red. Yeah.
Hi, the gentleman in the front here.
Hi, Mo. First of all, thank you so much. I went to the 5,000 in London with my daughter, and it was truly amazing. But one of the things that was obvious in the stadium was that you'd run the 10,000 the week before. A lot of the guys you ran against hadn't run it. And then you went to the front reasonably early in the 5,000, and there was this noise in the stadium. It was almost like he's going to get beaten. He's gone too early. And then when you got round that last corner, and there's this incredible noise. Were you aware that there's this kind of enormous feeling of relief that you'd done them all, and probably most people didn't think you were going to do it after you went so early. Were you aware of any of that?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, I was such in good shape, and I went in that race in the 5,000 meters going, you know what, I've won the gold medal. I've got nothing to lose. I'm going in there. I'm going to try and do the double, and that was my goal. But then I knew you had Kenenisa Bikili, you have Gabri Mascot, you had Galen Rupp. You had such a good field. It was almost like, you know what, if you went down the bookies and go, you probably wouldn't get much on me. But at that point, you're just putting yourself in that best position you can. Early on, I went to the front because I was trying to control the race, and but then you're going fast, but you're not. It was more of like just control the race, and then I figured out, yeah, he's not going a lot fast. He's just controlling the race, and then they went for it. But then put myself in the right place, like 3 or 4 laps to go. I always like to come on the outside, and then when it gets to the belt, get on the inside and hold the inside line.
I mean, it was incredible because you just saw everyone coming at you, and you beat every one of them off, and then there's this incredible noise.
Yeah, as I said, I think it was one of these things. You know, when I remember when we first got the bid for 2012, it was 2005, and I remember I was competing in somewhere, and we're like, yeah, we got the bid, and there's me making history in 2012, and it's incredible because we're not going to have another Olympics in London, and I don't know if I ever going to see another Olympics in London. And to me, it was almost, yeah, we did have a lot of pressure, but it was more of a like, you know what, all these people are here for me, and I will never forget, even at times where in my career later on, where I'm struggling to find motivation, I look back at that race or look back at the 10,000 and 5,000 and go, yeah, I'll go for a run now. It's almost that motivation.
Back there.
Hi, you mentioned that 2009, 2010 were difficult, and then 2011, 2012 obviously was a massive improvement. You talked about the physical facilities in America, going to America.
Yeah.
Did your mindset change at all? So that's the first question. And then secondly, how in the home straight in Rio, when you and the other guy who's second you must be in so much pain. How do you keep going?
Yeah, honestly, as I said, something needed to change for me because I finished 7th at the World Championship in 2007, and then I did make the Beijing Olympics, and then 2009, I finished 9th in the World Championship, and it was almost like being honest with myself and going, I was only like half a second behind a medal, but I wasn't close enough, and I was like, I need to change something. I felt like, you know, in terms of what I know, you know, there's Ethiopia, Kenya, but in the US, they're very well in advance in terms of, you know, you got all the college, all the facilities and everything else. And I knew like something had to change. It wasn't guaranteed that was going to work, but I felt like, you know, I had to make that decision because I didn't want to look back and go, I wish I've did that. And it wasn't easy, but it's what you had to do as an athlete.
And running through the pain, how do you do it? How do you when you've got somebody in your shoulder and you're trying to get to it and you're in physical pain? How do you keep yourself going?
Honestly, I just try and like drive to the line, and I always tell myself, it's one of my quotes, saying you always got more than what you think you have. Many times where we're always struggling and you want to let go, but I always tell myself you always got more than what you think you have, and just keep going. If I'm hurting, they're hurting. We've got more, and keep going at it.
Thank you.
Is there any at the back that I can't see because of the projector? I mean, we'll do this one here. Any at the back?
Yeah.
Oh, in the middle at the back, yeah.
Hey Mo,
Hi.
amateur runner here also. You've had a really, really long, illustrious career, being at the peak of your performance. How have you maintained being there without burning out? And everything we've been talking about has been about
Yeah.
keep going, and keep the steering wheel straight. But actually, like staying at that level without.
As I said, it's honestly, I've got such an amazing team that who kept me grounded, kept me in my lane. But also as an athlete, often there was a lot of talk, even as a junior, is like going, "Oh yeah, he's great as a junior. He won't be any good as a senior." And you do make in the senior ranks, and for me, as I said, to have 6 or 7 years consistent of winning year after year, it wasn't easy, but it's something that I enjoyed, and I just remember, you know what, I'm going to look after my body. If I need, go and have an ice bath, go and get a massage, get condition your body well in terms of not just the running, but where
Good spa, basically.
Yeah, not staff. I often has said spa.
Good spa.
I wish there's a spa, mate. Well, like freezing ice. Don't want to say anymore. It's not. It's just you. You just had to recover and look after your body. It was a big part. And my physio and the people that knew my body, just hold on to them as well, not make any changes. Because when you get to the top, you've seen a lot of stuff. A lot of people change and business change and move in a different direction and stuff like that. For me, it was like, you know what? This is my team. This is my agent. This is my physio. I want to keep the same team. And I think that also helps you massively. For me, it did.
Great, thanks. Just down the front here, Hayley, a red jacket.
So you've talked about the fact that you had self-belief and you had people around you who believed in you. Was there anyone who you were proving wrong? Did you ever use negative energy from people to think? Because I see that often in business that some of the most successful people are doing it to sort of prove people wrong. And I'm just wondering if that was ever part of your motivation.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say I'm probably the most stubborn person, you see, because sometimes if I believe something, I've just got to do it. And I'm one of these people where, you know what, if you make mistake, I'll make mistake. And then I have to know how I made that mistake, try and correct that mistake and not to make it happen next time. But in terms of stubbornness, no, that's about it, I think.
So there's no one ever that gave negative connotations or just thought negatively about it, said you can't do it?
You did. I did come across quite a lot because you're on TV, you're lots of stuff, you do lots of interviews, and people have different opinion. And to me, but that didn't bother me. It's like I understand your opinion, it's fine, but this is what I think, and I just all I could do is control my race and do what I do best. And I think sometimes when we see something so negative, it does bring you down a bit, but you have to overcome that and go, you know what? It's fine, and try and use it in a positive energy, because I think each one of us here will have different opinion on certain things. It's fine, but as long as we just have understand each other and respect for each other, you can go far in life.
Go on then, Rich. I have seen you, but I'm giving other people a chance.
Is it totally? Oh.
Hi, Mo, thank you very much. There is an athlete under this sort of slightly indulgent-looking shabby exterior, but it was just I've got friends that have read books like Born to Run, and I now with 2 young kids run a bath as opposed to running anywhere else or doing anything else. But there is running for some people, and I've tried to get into it, sort of doing part run and that sort of stuff, where it's not a vocation, it's not a hobby, it's not even a sport, it is a religion, it is a point of freedom, of solace, of a place of sanctity, and somewhere where you go and you just get into a mindset where, unless you can actually get into it, I don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
So for someone that I know, didn't start with wanting to run straight away, and now in retirement presumably looks at something 10,000 meters away and would probably opt to drive than run it. But what
goes through your mind when you run? What drives you? Some people run to something. Some people run from something. They run for something. What is it that makes you run?
I totally agree with you. And as I said, even like now, I'm very open about what I'm doing and how much running I'm doing. And as I said, you know, when for me, running was a way of being free. And as I said, early on, I think that gave me something to do, something that I could control. And then actually going into that place where, you know, often if you had a goal, it's hard without a goal. Whatever your goal is, you could be, you know what, I want to run a 5K in 40 minutes or 1 hour, or even walk 5K. If you didn't have a goal, it's hard. And often, as I said, why run? And I think it's almost you got to find what's behind it, what's motivation, what is the goal, what do you want to get out of it? And as I said, for me, was being a young boy going, I want to run for my country, I want to go and win medals. And then once you get that feeling of winning and that endorphin so high here, you're searching for it. And each year going into it, I'm like, you know what, even when I finished in 2012 Olympics, I was like, can I retain this? It wasn't because I'm going to go and celebrate and have a good time. It's just like, I want to retain this. And that's our mindset of being an athlete, elite athlete. But often for all of us, I think we have to have a goal. We have to have ambition. You have to have something, whatever that is. Or if maybe your friends challenge you to go and compete, you know, that 5K run or charity run, as I said, you have to have a goal. Even for me now, as I said, now and then I'll jog with my kids, and I'm quite an active person, walk the dog, and I'll do quite a lot. But now and then I'll just go for a run to clear my head. If there's a lot on my mind, I'll just go for a run, and I know that clears me out, and I'm like a bit more relaxed. But I don't go on run every day or say, you know what, I've run 120 miles for many, many years. I'm just going to run. It's more like, yeah, I'm just chilling.
But Mo, just on that point, so I know a lot of people that say, like, everyone tells me about this runner's high, and they say to me that the runner's high is when it finishes. Like, they really struggle with running to get that. I mean, for somebody that's not a natural runner, but they want to sort of get into it, and they've not got winning gold at the Olympics, but there's some step and goal, and it might not be a time. Just tell us a bit about how your advice would be for that person.
Honestly, as I said, the best thing to do is not make anything complicated, because as I said, like if we make it so complicated, it's hard. It's as a pressure, and the whole purpose of being able to run is being free and just go out there and run and take small steps. So maybe you set yourself once a week. Do you know what? Might not like it, but I'm doing it because I want to know. I just want to be able to run at least once a week for your mindset on, and then later on go, you know what, 2 times a week. And once you enjoy it, I think the hardest thing for someone is to start running, and then when they get injured, that's the most hardest, because that's the two things. Like when you're starting something new, it's hard. It's not easier. But once you find a good level, and you find that good, happy place, you're like, you keep going. And then when you get injured from that point, it's almost like you have to start from scratch again. So that's most hardest. But if you can take small steps towards it and not complicate it, and maybe start off 1 mile at a time, 1.5 miles, slowly add. And as you get stronger, enjoy it, then you'll be able to enjoy more. Not even always like set yourself like time and go, you know what, I want to run in this time. It's almost like it takes away from just in that zone. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it's great. I mean, guys, one more question, quick question. Yeah, go on.
I'll come back to you.
Sorry.
Hi there. So one of the biggest things when you're a professional athlete is you have that routine. It's very intense, very disciplined, which can be, you know, it's one of the things I enjoy about running. I do a bit of that, but it can also be, you know, everything that you do and a bit limiting. Once once that ended, was it a relief or do you miss it? And the side question, what is your easy pace when you go out running now?
I'm allowed to share it. What used to be on now? Oh God. I'll go first question first. As I said, honestly, is that things change, and as I said, you know, even for my fellow athletes that I train with, certain things work different for others. If I'm one of these people who's like, you know what, don't make things so complicated. I would just accept for what it is and just try your best and go and do it. And as a professional athlete, things always move. So you have to be willing to adapt. If you can't adapt, it's so hard because it might be a new environment, it might be a new place, it might be a new training camp. But also, as I said, I think it's just, you know, I learned a lot about myself, being able to compete more. And how much running I'm doing now and what pace. Probably running about 8:30. 8:30 per mile. Yeah. Yeah. Who's in the 8:30 club? Come on.
That's backwards.
Yeah.
So look, Mo's going to come to the crystal room where you had your initial drinks, answer any more questions for about another 45 minutes. So if you've got any other questions, grab him in there, and I'm sure we can do some photos, etc. as well. But look, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Mo, for doing this for us today. It's amazing.